June 17, 2014, from Estadio Mineroa in Belo Horizonte, Brazil. It was the 2014 World Cup Brazil. And in the first game from day 6 in round 1 from Group H, we had Belgium versus Algeria. It's a pretty tight game. At the 24-minute mark, Algeria got a penalty kick, and Sofani Fagoli scored a goal on the penalty kick to put Algeria up 1-0. That would be it for the first half. Then deep into the second half, at the 70-minute mark, it was Marouane Fellaini with the header as he scored the goal to the top right corner to tie this game up at 1 goal apiece. So this game was tied, and then at the 80-minute mark, Belgium broke loose with a fast break and a pass from Eden Hazard, and he beautifully passed it over to Dries Mertens with a right-footed shot to the top right corner for the goal. So Belgium went up 2-1, and they would hold on for the victory as they get their first win in their first game, and the first game from Group H. So the final score was 2-1 as Belgium comes from behind to beat Algeria 2-1. If you actually look inside the numbers, Belgium actually dominated this game even though they were playing a goal behind because of that penalty kick. If it wasn't for that penalty kick though, the Belgium really just would have ran away with this game, except they actually had to tie it late and then come from behind and win with the comeback victory, but they actually had 8 shots on goal versus Algeria's 1 shot on goal. I mean, so it's amazing that Algeria actually was in that position that they were in, especially Belgium had a time of possession 67% to 33. Just, they were dominating 7 corner kicks to 2. The one thing, though, that kept Algeria in this was great goalkeeping by Raz Mboli. And their great defense of Algeria is the defense was holding strong. They were fending off Belgium, but it was just too much attack on Belgium's side, too much talent for Belgium as they eventually were able to tie this game and then come from behind and win it. So it's quite the exciting game to start things here on June 17. June 17, 2014, from the Arena Pantanal from Cuba, Brazil. The 2014 World Cup Brazil, and then the third and final match from day 6 in round 1, we had a match from Group H between Russia and South Korea. This game was pretty tight as these two teams are both evenly matched, and there would be no score throughout the first half. Then in the second half, at the 68-minute mark, South Korea from way outside, Lee Kun-ho scored the goal with a right-footed shot to the bottom right corner as he knocked it right into the goalie and it bounced off his hands and just went into the net as he wasn't able to stop it. So that put Korea up 1-0 over Russia. But just 6 minutes later, at the 74-minute mark, Alexander Kurtzakov scored with a right-footed shot. He got the rebound and he scored the goal to tie this game up at 1 goal apiece. As Russia would not be denied. It was almost offsides, but it wasn't. And Russia tied this game up. And the game would end with the final score 1-1, as neither team would score after that. And this game was pretty even. They both had 5 shots on goal, and they both had 4 corner kicks, and they had an even 50-50 time of possession, and they each had 4 saves. So it's right down the middle as could be. So this game ends in a tie as Russia and South Korea each get 1 point, and Belgium has the lead there in Group H as they got the win earlier in the day. June 22nd, 2014, from Estadio do Maracanã in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. It was the 2014 World Cup Brazil. And in the first matchup of the day, we had 2 teams from Group H as Belgium faced off against Russia. And this was a battle of futility as both teams failed to score in the first half and deep into the second. It wasn't until the 88-minute mark when Divock Origi scored the goal with a right-footed shot to the center of the goal. He got a nice assist from Eden Hazard His Hazard was over on the left side, almost out of bounds, passed it over to Orgy, and he kicked it right in. It was beautiful. And Belgium just pulls this one away with the victory. They narrowly went to the stoppage time with the 0-0 tie. It almost ended up with a draw with Russia, but they snatched the draw. They snatched the victory away from the possibility of ending in a draw. So Belgium picks up 3 points. They take the lead in Group H. Russia's not technically done though. Even later on, we have the Algeria versus South Korea game next. Even regardless of what happens there, Russia's still alive to play another day in that group there. Algeria has 1 point. Algeria has no points. South Korea and Russia each have 1 point from their tie. So, regardless, Russia still will be waiting to see what happens in the next game. But Belgium is sitting pretty now, as they are now going to be in a prime position with those 6 points in their division. They pretty much have. They're all but advanced, so they're going to wait and see what happens. But if, depending on what does happen, Belgium is more than likely moving on, but not quite yet. In this game, though, shots on goal, Russia actually had 3 shots on goal versus Belgium's 2. They struggled to get good shots in this game, but once Belgium finally did get a good shot, they did capitalize. But throughout, they were taking shots and they weren't on goal. So each had a dozen shots, but corner kicks were in favor of Russia 8-5. And Belgium had a problem with offsides. They were offside 7 times versus 0 for Russia. The time of possession looked much like the scoreboard, as it was 51% to 49% with a very slight advantage in favor of Belgium. Belgium, though, got some nice goalie play from Thibaut Courtois. He saved every shot on goal that he faced. It was only 3, but he saved all 3 shots. And Belgium comes away with the win as they win this one 1-0. So you start off an exciting day of soccer down in Brazil. Still has Algeria and South Korea do that, boys. Algeria and South Korea, and then the big game, the game that we're all looking forward to. Everyone around the world is looking forward to, USA versus Portugal, with the United States having a chance to advance and knock out Portugal with the win. We'll see about that, but for this game, Belgium comes away with a late victory with an exciting goal in the 88th minute, and they win this one 1-0. June 22nd, 2014, from Estadio Beira Rio in Porto Alegre, Brazil. It was the 2014 World Cup Brazil. And in the second matchup of the day, it was 2 teams from Group H, as we saw Algeria versus South Korea. And this one was exciting in the first half, as Algeria jumped all over South Korea. At the 26-minute mark, Islam Slimani scored the goal with a left-footed shot to the bottom right corner to put Algeria up 1-0. Then less than 2 minutes later, at the 28-minute mark, Rafik Halici scored a goal with a header to the top left corner, and that would make it 2-0 Algeria. Then, 10 minutes later, Abdelmoumini Davao scored the goal with a left-footed shot to the bottom right corner, and it was now 3-0 Algeria. So Algeria went into halftime up by 3 goals as they were dominant in the first half. They owned South Korea in the first half of this game. But not so fast in the second half. At the 50-minute mark, Son Heung-min scored the goal with a left-footed shot to the center of the goal to put South Korea on the board as they cut Algeria's lead to 2 goals, as it was now 3-1. But then at the 62-minute mark, Algeria responded as Yassine Brahimi scored a goal with a right-footed shot to the center of the goal that put Algeria back up by 3 goals, as it was now 4-1. But less than 9 minutes later, at the 73-minute mark, actually 11 minutes later, at the 73-minute mark, Hujachil scored the goal with a left-footed shot to the bottom right corner to make it 4-2. But that would be all South Korea could muster in the second half, as this ended at a score of 4-2, and Algeria wins. So Algeria picks up 3 points in this game. And they really capitalized on their shots on goal. Is they only had 5 shots on goal, but they got 4 goals, so they were 80% on their shots on goal. South Korea only scored half of their shots on goal, as they had 4, they scored twice, which is usually pretty good, but Algeria was just very potent on the offense, especially in the first half. They got that big 3-goal lead. It was just too much for South Korea to overcome. South Korea did have more corner kicks. They had 7 corner kicks to Algeria's 5, and they had the slight lead in the time of possession, as it was very even on time of possession, 51% to 49% in favor of South Korea. Of course, a lot of that was in the second half, as Algeria was playing with that big lead. They weren't as aggressive. They were so aggressive early that they laid off in the second half. Although they did add a goal after South Korea got on the board. They had some good goalkeeping from Reyes Mbouke from Algeria. Of course, I apologize for all the mistakes I made on all the names, because I would be surprised if I said any of them right. But you know what I meant. And in the description, I'll have the correct spelling for each of them at the minute they scored and who they scored for, in case you couldn't understand what I was saying. But you couldn't understand this, and that's that Algeria wins this game 4-2. And now we have 1 game left today, the last game of the second phase of the group round, as these are the second matchups. And after today, everybody will only have 1 game left to play in the group round, whether they're eliminated, whether they're advancing. June 26, 2014, from the Arena Corinthians in Sao Paulo, Brazil. It was the 2014 World Cup Brazil. In the last pair of matchups from the group round, we had Group H, and in this game it was Belgium versus South Korea. This game was tight throughout, and it was 0-0, 0-0, going in the locker rooms at halftime and deep into the second half until the 77-minute mark, when Jan Vertonghen scored the goal with a left-footed shot to the bottom left corner. And that put Belgium up 1-0, and that would be the final score, as Belgium wins this game and they move on to be the top team from Group H, as they're moving on to the round of 16, and South Korea is eliminated. This game was pretty even on shots on goal, as it was 5-4, with a slight advantage in favor of Belgium. And corner kicks were in the favor of South Korea. They almost had twice as many, with 7 corner kicks to 4. And they also had the time of possession in their favor at 55% to 46%. But they were not able to score a goal. Both teams had 4 saves, as they were having excellent goalkeeping from their goaltenders. But Belgium comes away with the victory in this one, as they win 1-0. They're moving on to the round of 16 as the top team from Group H. June 26, 2014, from the Arena da Baixada in Curitiba, Brazil. It was the 2014 World Cup Brazil. And in the final pair of matchups, we had the teams from Group H going at it. And in this game, it was Algeria versus Russia, as both teams had their hopes of moving on to the next round on the line. As Algeria came into this game with 3 points, and Russia had 1 point, along with South Korea, who had 1 point, and Belgium led the group. So Algeria in this game, they could move on with a tie or a win. Russia needed to win if they had any hopes of winning this matchup. And just 6 minutes into this game, Alexander Kokorin scored the goal with a header to the top left corner. So Russia got on the board early, as they were up 1-0, much to the delight of the Russian fans in the stands. And it looked like Russia might actually move on to the round of 16, as they went to the locker rooms up 1-0 at halftime. But not so fast, because at the 60-minute mark, Islam Somani scored the goal with a header to the bottom right corner following the set piece with an assist from Yassin Brahimi. And now it was tied up 1-1, Algeria and Russia. So Islam Slimani puts Algeria on the board, and 1-1 would be the final score as this game ends in a draw, and Algeria is moving on to the round of 16. And Russia is eliminated from the 2014 World Cup. And this game was pretty even, as the score indicates, but it was also even on shots on goal. Russia had the slight advantage with 7 shots on goal versus 6 for Algeria. They also had the slight advantage on corner kicks, 4-3, and the slight advantage on time of possession, 53% to 47%. But Algeria had the slight advantage on saves, 5-4. So they're both getting some good goalkeeping out of their goalies in net for both sides. It's Raz Mboli for Algeria and Igor Akinfeev for Russia. But Algeria made the most of the opportunities they got. They were few and far between, but they were able to tie up this game in the second half, and they are moving on to the round of 16. So Belgium beat South Korea as they eliminated them, and they are the top team from Group H, and Algeria is the second team from top H. Is now all of the games have been played for the group round, and we're down to the final 16, and that will start on Saturday, and we'll be bringing more results from those games in the very near future. But check back the channel as we'll have more reviews of how things went in the first round and breaking them down.